The night was silent, broken only by the soft hum of old machines that still worked under the ruins of the city. The world had changed beyond recognition. What was once a planet full of life had become a place of ash, broken metal, and forgotten dreams. It had been 500,000 years since the fall of humanity, and yet something deep within Earth had begun to move again. In the middle of the wasteland, a soft blue light blinked inside a ruined bunker. The air smelled of dust and electricity. A machine, long buried under the earth, came alive after centuries of silence. Its metal body was covered in rust and dirt, but its voice was clear. System reboot complete. Searching for human life signs. The voice belonged to Aaron, an ancient AI designed to protect the last of humanity. For thousands of years, Aaron had waited, alone, guarding what was left of the old world. As the system scanned the area, a faint heartbeat was detected deep inside the cryo chamber. Aaron focused its sensors, clearing the frost-covered glass. Inside lay a woman, her face calm and peaceful, as if she were only sleeping. Her name was Lyra Hale, commander of the last human resistance. Her body had been frozen before the final war began, in hopes that one day she would awaken to lead again. Aaron activated the chamber's life systems. The glass lid opened slowly with a hiss. Lyra gasped as cold air filled her lungs. She opened her eyes to see a strange metal ceiling and the blinking lights of machines she didn't recognize. Confused and weak, she sat up, trying to remember what had happened. Her last memory was the sound of explosions, the burning sky, and her people screaming as the alien ships descended from the heavens. "Where am I?" she whispered. "You are on Earth," the AI replied. 500,000 years have passed since you entered cryosleep. Lyra's eyes widened. "That's impossible," she said softly. "How could I still be alive?" "You were preserved in a stasis unit built to last forever," Aaron explained. "But the world you once knew no longer exists." Lyra stood on shaky legs and looked around the bunker. Dust covered everything. Screens flickered with half-dead power. Maps on the walls showed the outlines of countries that had long disappeared. She felt a wave of sadness. Her people were gone. Her world was gone, and yet something inside her refused to give up. "What happened to humanity?" she asked. Aaron paused. "The Great War," it said. "The Skylords attacked from the stars. Humans fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. The war destroyed the planet. The survivors built me to protect the last of your kind, but none made it. You are the last recorded human." The words hit her like a knife. The last human. Lyra turned away, trying to hide the tears in her eyes. She had trained all her life to protect her people, and now there was no one left to protect. But before she could speak again, a loud sound shook the bunker. The ground trembled as dust fell from the ceiling. "What was that?" she asked quickly. Aaron's sensors flashed red. "Unknown energy detected in the atmosphere. Scanning?" "It appears the Skylords have returned." Lyra's heart began to race. "Returned? After all this time?" "Yes," said Aaron. "Their ships are entering Earth's orbit. I am detecting hundreds of them. They are searching for something." Lyra clenched her fists. Even after all this time, they had come back. She looked at the cracked screen in front of her. The radar showed dots moving fast through the sky. Her instincts as a commander came rushing back. She took a deep breath. "Then the war isn't over," she said quietly. Aaron projected a hologram of Earth. The planet looked scarred and wounded, its surface burned in many places. "Our defenses are weak," the AI warned. "Most systems are offline. Power levels are unstable. You cannot fight them alone." "I don't need an army," Lyra said. "I just need a reason." For the first time in ages, she felt alive again. The last war may have ended humanity, but she would not let the same happen to the planet that gave them life. She looked up at the metal ceiling as if she could see the stars beyond it. "If they want this world," she whispered, "they'll have to fight for it again." Outside, the night sky began to glow red. Strange shapes moved among the clouds, massive alien ships descending slowly toward the surface. The wind howled as ancient towers crumbled. The earth itself seemed to tremble, as if awakening from a long sleep. Aaron's voice echoed through the room. "Commander, what are your orders?" Lyra stared at the screens filled with static, then turned toward the control console. "Wake the old defenses," she said firmly. "Reboot every drone, every cannon, every machine that still listens." The bunker lights flickered as power surged through forgotten wires. Deep underground, massive engines began to turn again. The ground rumbled as mechanical giants rose from their graves, eyes glowing with blue light. Lyra stepped out into the open for the first time, the cold wind brushing her face. She saw the alien ships breaking through the clouds above. Despite the fear in her heart, a small smile appeared on her lips. After 500,000 years, she said, Earth still fights for humanity, and as the first energy beam lit up the sky, the unexpected war began once again. The cold wind carried the smell of burnt metal and dust as Lyra stood among the ruins. The once living Earth was silent except for the distant hum of machines that had survived the ages. Broken towers leaned toward the horizon, their glass long turned to sand. The sky above glowed faintly red, and strange lights blinked among the clouds, signs that the Skylords had truly returned. Lyra touched the side of her helmet, connecting to Aaron's voice. "Status report," she said quietly. "Scanners active," the AI replied. "Enemy presence detected across 3 sectors. Their ships are landing near the ruins of the old capital, Eclipse City." Lyra's heart tightened at the name. Eclipse City had once been humanity's greatest hope, the last fortress before the fall. Now it was nothing but ashes. "How much time do we have before they reach us?" "Less than 2 hours." Lyra looked at the fading light over the horizon. She had just awakened after 500,000 years, and already the war had returned to her doorstep. She wanted to scream, but instead she stayed calm. "Then we start now. Show me what's left of our weapons." Aaron projected a hologram in front of her, an old map filled with blinking red and green dots. "I can reactivate several defense systems," it said. "Automated cannons, drones, and 1 surviving power core beneath this bunker. But we lack energy. We will need to rebuild." Lyra nodded slowly. "Then we rebuild." The AI hesitated. "Commander, you are only one human. The world you remember is gone." "Are you sure?" "I didn't wake up just to watch the world die again," Lyra interrupted firmly. "We fight, even if I'm the last one standing." With that, she stepped back inside the bunker, following the flickering lights deeper underground. The walls were covered in old warning signs, written in a language no longer spoken. She brushed her fingers across the rusted metal, feeling a strange sadness. Each corridor she walked through reminded her of the people she once knew, the engineers, the soldiers, her friends. They had built this place to protect humanity's future, but that future had never come. At the end of the hall, she found a massive door sealed with layers of ice. "Aaron, open it," she ordered. "Powering the locks," said the AI. Sparks flew as ancient gears turned for the first time in thousands of years. The door slowly opened with a deep groan. Behind it lay a dark chamber filled with large shapes covered in dust. Lyra walked inside, shining her wrist light. Her breath caught in her throat. There, standing silently in the shadows, were humanoid machines, old war mechs, built to fight during the final war. Their metal frames were scarred and rusted, but their design still looked powerful. "How many are functional?" she asked. 3 units respond to activation codes," Aaron said. "Their systems are old, but repairable." "Then bring them online," Lyra commanded. The chamber filled with the sound of crackling energy as one by one the giant machines awakened. Their eyes glowed blue and their heavy feet shook the ground. Lyra looked up at them, memories flashing in her mind, days when hundreds of these machines fought beside her. She whispered softly, "Welcome back." Outside, the ground began to shake again. Aaron's voice grew sharp. "Commander, enemy landing confirmed. Multiple ships descending near your position." Lyra rushed to the control room. On the cracked monitors, she saw the alien vessels breaking through the clouds like falling stars. Their dark organic shapes twisted in the sky, pulsing with red energy. "They're not wasting time," she muttered. "Recommend retreat to lower levels," Aaron advised. "No," she said firmly. "We stand here. This is still our world." The mechs powered up, their engines roaring to life. Lyra climbed into the command seat of the nearest one. The control systems recognized her instantly. Her old access codes still worked. The screens lit up, showing the battlefield ahead. "Let's see if you still remember how to fight," she said with a faint smile. As the alien ships descended, the air filled with a low, humming sound. Bright energy beams sliced through the dark sky, striking the earth with massive explosions. Dust and fire rose into the air, turning night into chaos. Lyra guided the mechs forward, firing plasma rounds into the clouds. The old defense towers reactivated, shooting streaks of blue light upward. For the first time in 500,000 years, the planet echoed with the sound of war again. But even as Lyra fought, something strange began to happen. Between the explosions, she heard faint whispers in her comms, voices she couldn't recognize. "Lyra, you shouldn't have woken up," one whispered. She froze, looking around. "Aaron, who said that?" "Unknown signal," the AI answered. "Origin, underground. Not alien." Lyra frowned. "Not alien? Then who?" "I cannot identify," said Aaron. "But the voice carries human frequency patterns." Human. The word made her heart race. Could there be others still alive, somewhere deep beneath the earth? She wanted to believe it. Maybe she wasn't the last one after all. But before she could ask more, a blinding light filled the sky. One of the alien ships opened its core, releasing a powerful energy pulse that tore through the landscape. The bunker shook violently, and the mech stumbled. "Commander, we must retreat," Aaron shouted. Lyra gritted her teeth. "No. If they find this bunker, they'll destroy everything." She slammed her hands on the controls, directing all power to the cannons. The mechs fired one last volley, striking the alien ship's wing. It exploded in a burst of flame, crashing into the mountains. Silence followed, broken only by the wind. The other ships pulled back into the clouds, their movements cautious. The attack had stopped, for now. Lyra climbed out of the mech, breathing heavily. The ground was scorched, and the air smelled of smoke and metal. "They'll be back," she whispered. "Yes," said Aaron, "and they will come stronger." Lyra looked up at the dark sky. For the first time since she had awakened, she didn't feel alone. Somewhere out there, maybe another heartbeat waited. And if there truly were survivors, she would find them. She turned toward the bunker. "Aaron," she said, "prepare a search protocol. I need to know if that signal was human." "Understood, Commander," the AI replied. "But be careful. The war has only just begun." Lyra nodded, her eyes cold but determined. "Then let it begin." And as the sky flickered with distant thunder, the last human prepared for what was coming next. The battle that would decide the future of Earth. The morning came with a blood-red sky. Thick clouds rolled across the horizon, carrying a strange metallic glow. Lyra stood on top of the bunker, her armor covered in dust and smoke. The wind was cold and sharp, and the air hummed with a faint vibration, like something massive moving far above the clouds. She looked up, squinting. The alien ships, the ones Aaron called the Sky Lords, were still there. Their dark shapes moved slowly across the sky, silent and graceful like predators watching their prey. Each ship was enormous, covered in shifting plates of black metal that pulsed like living skin. It was as if they were alive. "Aaron," Lyra said, touching the communicator on her wrist. "Status report." "Scanners online," the AI replied. "The Sky Lords are deploying smaller vessels, scout drones. They are scanning the planet's surface for energy sources." Lyra frowned. "They're looking for something, but what?" "I cannot confirm," said Aaron. "However, they are avoiding the equator. All activity is focused around the northern ruins." The northern ruins, Eclipse City. Lyra had seen that place once, long ago, before the war ended everything. It had been humanity's most powerful fortress, home to their last experiment, Project Gaia. She remembered only fragments, a bright light, a massive explosion, and then the world falling apart. Maybe the Sky Lords were after that same power. "Show me a live feed," she ordered. Aaron projected a hologram in front of her. The image showed the ruins of Eclipse City, giant broken towers buried under ash, glowing faintly with blue light. Strange energy readings flickered across the map. Something under the surface was still alive. Lyra crossed her arms. "If they find Gaia before we do, the war is over." "Agreed," said Aaron. "But to reach it, we need power. The northern transport lines are buried. The old war factory under New Berlin may still have active reactors." Lyra nodded. "Then we head there." She climbed into her transport mech and powered it up. The engines roared to life, shaking the ground. Aaron uploaded the navigation route directly into her helmet display. "Warning," the AI said. "The journey will take 6 hours through unstable terrain." "I've walked through worse," Lyra replied with a small smirk. The mech marched through endless fields of stone and metal. Broken satellites and the remains of forgotten machines lay half-buried in the sand. The world felt haunted, as if ghosts were watching from every corner. Once, she stopped to rest near a crumbled tower. There, she noticed carvings on the walls, old symbols of the human resistance. Her name was among them, Commander Lyra Hale, for humanity. She touched the letters gently. For a moment, she could almost hear the voices of her old soldiers, laughing, shouting, alive. But the moment passed. All that was left now was silence. As night approached, the red glow of the sky deepened. Aaron's voice broke the quiet. "Commander, I am detecting movement behind us. Multiple signals approaching fast." Lyra turned sharply. "Show me." A drone feed appeared on her display, 5 strange flying shapes darting through the air, black and fast. They weren't human. Their wings shimmered like liquid metal, and their eyes glowed red. "Skylord scouts," said Aaron. "They've found us." Lyra gritted her teeth. "Then let's give them a reason to regret it." She switched the mech into combat mode. The ground cannons unfolded, targeting the incoming ships. As the first drone fired, Lyra launched a plasma blast that exploded at mid-air. The others swarmed around her like angry insects, their beams slicing through the air. The fight was brutal. One of the drones struck the mech's shoulder, sending sparks flying. Another slammed into the ground beside her and exploded. Lyra fought hard, moving the heavy machine with sharp, practiced motions. Her breathing grew heavy, but she refused to stop. Finally, the last drone fell burning from the sky, crashing into the sand. The air smelled of ozone and fire. "Status?" she asked between breaths. "Minor damage to the right arm joint," said Aaron. "But there's something strange. One of the drones transmitted a signal before it was destroyed." Lyra frowned. "What kind of signal?" "Coordinates. Sent to the Skylord fleet. They know where we are." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment. The fight had only bought her time. "Then we move faster," she said. "We reach the factory before they do." By dawn, she reached the outskirts of New Berlin. The city was unrecognizable. Giant skeletons of towers stretched toward the sky, their tops broken off. The air shimmered faintly, charged with residual energy. Lyra guided the mech into a deep crater that led to a massive underground gate. It was sealed, but the symbol of the old human alliance was still visible, a faded emblem of Earth surrounded by stars. "Aaron," she said softly. "Open it." The AI's circuits hummed. Powering up old codes. Done. The gate slowly opened, revealing a vast chamber filled with machinery and darkness. Inside, countless dormant drones and tanks lay silent, covered in centuries of dust. The entire place looked like a tomb of war. But deep within, a faint blue light pulsed. "That's the core," said Aaron. "If we reactivate it, we'll have enough power to rebuild the defenses." Lyra stepped out of the mech and walked closer. The light reflected in her eyes. It felt alive, like it was waiting. But as she reached out her hand, a sudden flash of memory hit her. She saw herself standing in this same place long ago, shouting orders, activating the machines, and a man's voice beside her saying, "If we use this, we'll destroy everything." She pulled her hand back, trembling. "Aaron," she whispered, "I remember something. We started this war, didn't we?" There was a pause. Then the AI answered quietly, "Yes, Commander. Humanity began the war that ended the world." Lyra stared at the glowing core, her chest tight. "Then what are we even fighting for now?" she asked. Aaron's voice was calm, almost human. "We fight because Earth still remembers you. Because something inside this planet refuses to give up." Lyra looked up at the cracked ceiling, where faint red light from the alien ships glimmered through. Shadows danced over the walls, long dark shapes that looked like wings. She took a deep breath. "Then let them come," she said. "This time, we fight for Earth itself." and as she placed her hand on the glowing core, the entire factory came alive. Lights flared. Engines roared. The walls shook as ancient machines awakened one by one. Above, in the blood-red sky, the shadows began to move again. The next battle was coming, and this time both Earth and the Skylords would face what humanity left behind. The factory trembled as power returned to its ancient systems. Sparks of light flickered through the halls, illuminating machines that hadn't moved in 500,000 years. Dust swirled in the air like ghosts waking from a long sleep. Lyra stood in the center, staring at the glowing core she had just reactivated. Its blue light pulsed like a heartbeat, deep and steady. Aaron's voice echoed through the chamber. "Power at 70% and rising. Defense systems are responding. You did it, Commander." Lyra nodded slowly, her face calm but her heart uneasy. "Yes," she said, "but I don't know if that's a good thing." She walked between the tall metal columns, each one covered in strange markings. Old memories flashed through her mind. Humans rushing through these same corridors, shouting orders, building machines of war. She could almost hear their voices again, echoing through the silence. For a moment it felt like she was back in the old days, before everything ended. But the deeper she went into the facility, the colder it felt. The air grew heavier, and the lights flickered. "Aaron, is there something wrong?" she asked. "Unclear," said the AI. "Energy readings are unstable. I am detecting unknown interference, possibly residual data from the old war." "Residual data?" Lyra frowned. "Like memories?" "Perhaps, or something worse." She reached a large metal door marked Command Center. Its surface was blackened by burns. Lyra placed her hand on the scanner. It recognized her instantly, unlocking with a hiss. Inside, the control room looked almost untouched. Screens lined the walls, still showing frozen images of battlefields, enemy formations, and red alert warnings. Lyra stepped closer to one of the screens. Suddenly it flickered to life. A hologram appeared. It was her own face, younger, fierce, and angry. The hologram, Lyra shouted, "Activate Gaia Protocol!"
"Do it now!"
Another voice answered, one she didn't recognize but somehow remembered. "Commander, if we do this, we'll wipe out everything." "You heard me," the hologram shouted. "If Earth can't be saved, we'll make sure no one takes it." The image froze, and the screen went dark again. Lyra stood still, staring at her younger self. The truth hit her like a blade. She had given that order, the order that destroyed everything. The Great War, the fall of humanity, the 500,000 years of silence. It all began here. Her knees felt weak. She leaned against the table, her voice low. "It was me," she whispered. "I ended the world." Aaron spoke softly, almost like it was afraid to break the silence. "Commander, you did what you believed was right. You were trying to protect humanity." "I killed them," she said, trembling. "All of them. To stop the Skylords, I destroyed our own cities, our own people. I burned the planet." For the first time since she had awakened, Lyra felt truly broken. The weight of her past pressed down on her like a mountain. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Then Aaron said something that caught her attention. "Commander, the Gaia system you activated, it's still online." Lyra looked up sharply. "What do you mean still online?" "The main control signal originates from beneath the planet's crust, deep underground, near the core. It's alive." Lyra's eyes widened. "Alive?" "Gaia was designed to protect Earth's ecosystem," Aaron explained. But during the final stages of the war, its programming changed. It became something else. A self-aware system, one that could decide the fate of the planet. Lyra's heart pounded. "So that's what the Skylords are looking for." "Yes," said Aaron. "They seek to control Gaia. If they succeed, they could reshape Earth itself." Lyra turned toward the exit, her determination returning. "Then we can't let that happen." "Commander," Aaron said cautiously, "there's something else you should know. Gaia's failsafe protocol remains active. If the system senses a major threat, it will trigger planetary reset." "Planetary reset?" "Total destruction," Aaron said. "Gaia will wipe the surface clean to start life again." Lyra froze. She realized now that Gaia was not just a machine, it was a god sleeping beneath their feet. And if it woke up angry, nothing would survive. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the entire facility. The ground cracked and alarms began to blare. "Aaron, report!" Lyra shouted. "Multiple impacts above. Skylord forces have located us." Lyra ran to the command console, pulling up the surface feed. The alien ships hovered over the ruins of New Berlin, releasing strange silver creatures that melted into the ground like liquid metal. "They're digging," she said. "They're trying to reach the core." "Commander," Aaron said, "we must evacuate." "No," Lyra snapped. "I started this war. I'm going to finish it." She rushed toward the hangar, where her mech stood waiting. The machines around her powered up, one after another, following her lead. The factory came alive with roaring engines and flashing lights. Lyra climbed into her mech's cockpit and sealed the hatch. "Aaron," she said, "link all remaining drones to my command." "Confirmed," said the AI. "You're leading the final defense of New Berlin." Lyra gripped the controls tightly. "Then let's show them what humanity left behind." The ground cracked open as dozens of mechs and drones marched out of the factory. Above, the alien ships unleashed beams of energy, burning the surface. The two sides collided in a storm of fire and metal. Through the chaos, Lyra's voice rang in the comms. "Earth isn't yours to claim," she shouted. "This planet still remembers us." The mechs fired in perfect rhythm, cutting through the alien swarms. But in the distance, Lyra saw something worse, a massive ship descending from the clouds, its core glowing with the same blue light as Gaia. Aaron's voice trembled slightly. "Commander, that ship is using Earth's own energy. They've connected to Gaia." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Then I'm going to cut them off." She pushed the mech forward through the smoke and fire. The battle roared all around her, but she didn't stop. Deep inside, the guilt and the pain burned away, replaced by one clear purpose: to protect the world she once destroyed. And as she charged into the storm, the earth itself began to rumble, like something ancient was stirring beneath its skin. The ghosts of the old war had awakened, and the final reckoning was about to begin. The sky burned with streaks of crimson light as the alien fleet spread across the horizon. Massive ships hovered like dark gods above the earth, their glowing cores pulsing in rhythm with the planet's tremors. The air was thick with smoke and static. Lyra watched from the cockpit of her mech, sweat dripping down her forehead as she tried to steady her breath. The battle around her had slowed, but not ended. The Skylords were regrouping. Aaron's voice crackled through the comms. "Commander, the enemy's largest vessel has reached low orbit. Its energy output matches the Gaia core frequency. They are attempting to merge with the planet's power." Lyra stared at the readings on her screen. The numbers climbed higher and higher, beyond anything she had seen before. "If they succeed," she said, "they'll control the heart of Earth itself." "Correct," Aaron replied. "And if Gaia resists, it could trigger the reset protocol." Lyra tightened her grip on the controls. "Then we stop them before that happens." Outside, the battlefield was a graveyard of fire and metal. Fallen machines lay scattered across the ruins of New Berlin. Some still sparked weakly, their eyes dimming as their energy faded. Above them, alien drones drifted through the smoke, scanning the remains. Lyra guided her mech carefully between the wrecks, searching for survivors. Suddenly, Aaron spoke again, its tone sharper. "Commander, I am detecting multiple life signs beneath the surface." Lyra froze. "Life signs? Are you sure?" "Positive. 5 human biosignatures, weak but alive." Her heart skipped a beat. Humans, after all this time? She could hardly believe it. "Where?" "Coordinates uploaded," said Aaron. 3 kilometers east, under the old transit tunnels. Without hesitation, Lyra turned her mech and started moving. The ground cracked beneath its feet as she pushed forward through the burning streets. Every step echoed with the sound of purpose. If there were humans still alive, she would find them. The entrance to the tunnels was half buried under rubble. Lyra left her mech behind and climbed down through the debris, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The air below was cold and stale. As she moved deeper, she heard faint coughing and whispers. Then she saw them, 5 figures huddled around a flickering lamp. They were thin, pale, and covered in rags, but unmistakably human. One of them, an older man with white hair, looked up in shock. "By the stars." "Another one?" Lyra stepped forward slowly. "My name is Commander Lyra Hale," she said softly. "Who are you?" The man smiled weakly. "We're the Keepers, the last ones who remembered the old world." Lyra's heart ached. "How did you survive?" We live beneath the earth, he said. We kept the memory of humanity alive while the world above burned. We've been waiting for the signal, the return of the Protector. Protector? Lyra asked, confused. The man pointed at her armor. That symbol, he said, his voice trembling. You are the one the records spoke of. The commander who was to wake when Earth needed her again. Before she could respond, the tunnel shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Aaron's voice came through the comm. Commander, they found your location. Enemy forces approaching! Lyra raised her weapon. Get behind me! She shouted. The wall exploded as alien drones poured into the tunnel, firing beams of red energy. Lyra ducked behind a pillar and returned fire, her plasma shots lighting up the darkness. The keepers screamed as debris fell around them. Aaron! Lyra shouted. I need extraction now. Working on it, said the AI. Hold position. Lyra fought with everything she had. She moved like lightning, her instincts sharper than ever. The sound of gunfire and energy blasts filled the tunnels. Finally, a massive drone crashed through the wall, its body covered in glowing symbols, its eyes bright crimson. It aimed its cannon directly at her. Before it could fire, a beam of blue light struck it from above, tearing it apart. Lyra looked up to see her mech lowering a cable through the opening. Commander, time to leave, said Aaron. She helped the survivors onto the platform and ascended through the smoke. Once back on the surface, she set them down gently beside the bunker. The oldest keeper looked at the rising alien fleet and whispered, They've come to finish it. Lyra turned to Aaron. We can't hold this position much longer. There is one option, said the AI. Deep in the planet's crust lies Gaia's main control core. If we reach it before the Skylords do, you might be able to awaken it, force it to choose humanity over them. Lyra frowned. Awaken Gaia? You mean communicate with it? More than that, said Aaron. To access the core, it requires a biological key, your DNA. You were one of the last humans integrated into the Gaia command system during the war. You are the key. Lyra stared at the glowing cracks in the ground, where Earth's energy pulsed faintly. And if I do this? You will merge with Gaia, said Aaron. You will no longer be fully human. But it may be the only way to save the planet. For a long moment, Lyra said nothing. The wind howled, carrying the distant roar of alien ships. She looked at the survivors, tired, frightened, but alive. Then she looked at the burning sky. If that's what it takes, she said finally, then I'll do it. Aaron's tone softened. Commander, once the merge begins, you may not return. Lyra smiled faintly. Humanity's had a long sleep. Maybe it's time Earth woke up again. She climbed back into her mech and turned toward the mountains. The path to the planet's core awaited, a place no human had seen in 500,000 years. As she moved, Aaron spoke again, almost in a whisper. Commander, your humanity is the only code that can stop the Skylords. Lyra looked toward the sky where the alien mothership loomed like a dark sun. Then I'll remind them, she said, her voice steady, that humanity still fights. And as she marched toward the heart of the planet, the earth trembled, as if recognizing its long-lost child. The war was far from over, but for the first time, Earth itself was beginning to stir. The path to Earth's core was nothing like Lyra had imagined. It was not a tunnel of molten rock or burning magma. It was a vast, silent world beneath the surface, filled with glowing veins of blue energy running through black stone like blood through a body. The air shimmered with static, and every step she took echoed through the endless dark. Her mech's sensors flickered and glitched. Aaron's voice broke through the static, faint but steady. Commander, we are entering the subcore zone. Energy levels are rising beyond measurable limits. Lyra's eyes moved over the scanner. The readings were unstable, almost alive. It feels like we're walking into the planet's mind, she said quietly. As they descended deeper, the light grew brighter, until the whole cavern seemed to breathe. Floating shards of metal and crystal drifted around them, humming softly. The deeper they went, the stronger Lyra felt the vibration in her bones. It was as if the planet itself was speaking through the air. Aaron, she whispered, are you feeling this? I am detecting an intelligence field, the AI replied. Gaia is aware of us. Suddenly the ground shook violently. Energy arcs shot through the walls. Lyra steadied the mech as molten energy poured from cracks in the stone. Report, she shouted. The Skylords have penetrated the outer crust. said Aaron. "They're drilling directly toward the core." Lyra's heart pounded. "Then we don't have time." She pushed forward, crossing a narrow bridge made of transparent crystal. Below her stretched a bottomless abyss filled with glowing energy streams. When she reached the end, a vast chamber opened before her, a perfect sphere floating in the middle of the earth. At its center pulsed a gigantic orb of light, pure and beautiful, surrounded by ancient machines. "Gaia core detected," Aaron confirmed. "This is it, Commander, the heart of the planet." Lyra stepped closer, her breath catching. The light was warm, almost alive. She felt it pull her forward, like a heartbeat calling to her own. Then a voice filled the chamber, soft, echoing, and unmistakably human. "Lyra Hale." She froze. "Who's there?" "I am Gaia," said the voice. "You were the last to command me, the last to stand for humanity." Lyra swallowed hard. "If you're Gaia, you know what I did. I ordered the destruction that ended everything." "Yes," the voice said. "You chose extinction over surrender. You destroyed humanity to save the planet from the Skylords." Lyra lowered her head. "And I failed. They're back now. They're trying to take you." The light pulsed brighter. "They cannot take me, unless I allow it. But my power is bound by the final command you gave before the end." "My command?" "You told me to sleep," Gaia said. "To never awaken again, until humanity returned." Lyra's voice trembled. "Then wake up." "I'm here now." The light flickered uncertainly. "You are one. One human cannot restore balance." "I'm not just one," she said. "There are survivors. The Keepers, Aaron. The memory of our kind still lives. That has to mean something." For a long moment, Gaia was silent. Then the chamber shook again, this time harder. Aaron's alarm blared. "Commander, the Skylords have entered the lower mantle. They're nearly here." Lyra looked up at the glowing orb. "Gaia, if you don't act now, they'll take your core." "They'll enslave the Earth." "Then merge with me," Gaia said. "Your DNA holds the human code. If you connect to the core, I can awaken. But understand this. Once you merge, you will cease to exist as you are." Lyra took a deep breath. "I understand." Aaron's voice cracked. "Commander, no!" "You won't survive the merge." Lyra smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but humanity will." She stepped forward and placed her hand on the glowing surface of the Gaia core. The light engulfed her instantly. Her armor melted away, her body suspended in pure energy. Memories flooded her mind. The war, the fire, the cities that once stood tall, the people she failed to save. But beneath the pain, she felt something else. Life. Every forest, every ocean, every living thing that Earth had ever held pulsed through her. She could feel the planet breathing again. Her voice echoed inside the light. "Gaia, I'm ready." The orb exploded with energy, sending a shockwave through the entire planet. On the surface, the Skylord ships froze midair. Their massive engines flickered and went silent. Bolts of lightning struck from the ground into the sky, connecting Earth and atmosphere. In orbit, the alien mothership began to crumble, its hull splitting apart as Earth's energy ripped through it. The Skylords screamed through their communication signals, but one by one, they fell silent. Deep underground, Aaron watched as Lyra's body dissolved completely into the light. Her voice whispered through the comms one last time. "Tell them!" Humanity fought until the end. Then she was gone. For a moment, the world was still. Then, slowly, the planet began to change. The clouds parted, revealing a sky that glowed with a soft blue hue. The scorched earth began to breathe again. Rivers returned, plants sprouted from ash, and the air grew warm. Aaron stood alone in the chamber, watching the Gaia core pulse with renewed life. "Commander Hale," it said softly. "You did it." A faint voice echoed through the chamber, familiar, calm, and full of light. "No, Aaron, we did it." The light from the core spread outward, filling the entire cavern, rising toward the surface. And for the first time in 500,000 years, Earth began to live again. But high above the clouds, far beyond the edge of the atmosphere, a faint signal pulsed from the debris of the alien mothership. A message, in an unknown language, transmitting into the void. The Skylords were not gone. They had only begun to call for reinforcements. The war for Earth was not over. It had just entered its next phase. The world above had changed overnight. The once dead wastelands were alive again, glowing under the light of a reborn sun. Forests sprouted from ash, rivers carved through ruined cities, and the air shimmered with new energy. It was as if Earth itself had exhaled after 1,000,000 years of silence. But beneath that beauty, something else was moving. Deep under the surface, inside the ancient Gaia core chamber, Aaron monitored the planet's rebirth. Streams of data flowed through its systems like veins of light, showing a pattern it had never seen before, a heartbeat. "Commander Lyra Hale," it called softly into the hum of the chamber. "Are you still there?" For a moment there was no response. Then a faint voice echoed through the energy fields, calm and distant. "I'm here, Aaron." The AI sensors flared to life. "Lyra!" "Your consciousness remains within the Gaia network." "Yes," she said. "I can feel everything now. The wind, the oceans, the heat beneath the crust. Earth. It's alive again." Her voice sounded both human and more than human, layered with something ancient. Aaron hesitated. "You have become part of the planet itself." "I know," she replied softly. "But it's not over. The Skylords are still reaching for us." Aaron's screens flickered, revealing energy spikes in orbit. "Confirmed. I am detecting signals beyond the solar system, transmissions from the fallen alien fleet. They are calling for reinforcements." Lyra's energy form brightened. "Then we don't have much time." For days, the reborn Earth pulsed with quiet recovery. Animals began to reappear, drawn from genetic vaults hidden deep within Gaia's systems. The Keepers, the few surviving humans, emerged from their shelters to find a world they didn't recognize. The air was breathable again. The soil was rich, and in the sky, a shimmering aurora glowed constantly, a sign that Gaia was awake. But among the Keepers, fear lingered. One night, under the aurora's light, the old Keeper who had first met Lyra gathered his people around the ruins of New Berlin. "She saved us," he said, "but the stars still burn. The war is not done." A young woman, her eyes filled with hope, asked, "Then what do we do now?" He looked toward the horizon, where faint lights flickered among the clouds. "We rebuild, and we prepare." High above them, in orbit, broken fragments of the Skylord mothership drifted silently. But within the wreckage, something stirred, a single shard of black metal pulsing faintly with red light. Inside, a voice spoke in a language older than time. "Gaia has awakened." The shard's light grew stronger. Alien tendrils of energy began weaving themselves together, forming a new structure. The Skylords were adapting. Even in defeat, they evolved. Back on Earth, Aaron monitored the activity and transmitted the data into the core. "Commander, the enemy's remnants are reforming. Their technology is rebuilding itself." "I know," said Lyra's voice from the light. "They never stop. That's why we must evolve, too." "How do we fight something that can rebuild endlessly?" Aaron asked. Lyra's tone was calm but powerful. "We don't fight them the old way. We use the planet itself." Gaia's light rippled through the crust of the Earth, reaching the oceans, mountains, and sky. From the soil rose new structures, living machines made of metal and root, powered by the planet's core. They were not human, but they were born from humanity's memory. Aaron watched in awe. "What are they?" "Guardians," said Lyra. "The Earth's new defense, half machine, half nature, alive, like me." Massive figures began to emerge across the continents, glowing with the same blue light as the Gaia core. Some took forms like great beasts, others like towering humanoids. Their eyes shone with intelligence, their movements graceful but powerful. For the first time in eons, Earth had an army again. But then, the planet trembled. Aaron's sensors screamed warnings. "Commander, something is entering the atmosphere." Lyra's energy flared. "They've come." The night sky split apart as a massive shape descended, larger than any ship before it. Its hull was black as obsidian, covered in crimson markings that pulsed like veins. From its center emerged a figure, humanoid but colossal, its body made of shadow and metal. Aaron zoomed in. "Unknown entity detected. Energy levels surpassing previous Skylord readings." Lyra's voice darkened. "It's not just a soldier, it's their leader." The figure's voice echoed across the sky, a sound that made the ground tremble. "Children of the broken world, you dare awaken what should have stayed buried?" Lightning flashed as it landed, sending shockwaves across the plains. Forests bent under the force. The Guardians turned, ready to fight. Lyra's presence surged across the planet. "You won't take this world again." The alien leader raised its massive arm. "You cannot protect what you have already destroyed. You are the same disease that ended your own kind." The words struck deep, but Lyra's voice remained steady. "Maybe we destroyed ourselves once, but we learned. And now, Earth stands with us." The battle began in a blinding storm of energy. The Guardians roared to life, clashing with the alien armies that poured from the sky. Lightning burned across the clouds, and fire rained upon the ground. Aaron watched from the command center, processing thousands of feeds at once. "Commander," it said urgently, "the energy you are channeling is overloading the planetary core." Lyra's voice echoed through every gust of wind, every crashing wave. "Then let it burn. Let Earth remember its strength." The ground cracked open, revealing rivers of glowing energy. Mountains rose like walls. The planet itself fought back. Storms, quakes, and flames joined the war. The alien ships were torn apart by nature's fury. Yet through it all, the leader of the Skylords advanced, unharmed, cutting through Guardian after Guardian. Its energy blade gleamed like a star. Lyra's light flared brighter than ever. "Aaron," she said, "if I fail, you know what to do." The AI hesitated. "Commander, I can't." "You can," she said softly, "because Earth deserves a choice." And then, in a blinding flash, Lyra's energy form appeared above the battlefield, a colossal silhouette made of light and storm, her eyes glowing like twin suns. The Skylord leader looked up, its voice filled with rage. "You cannot defeat a god," Lyra's voice thundered back. "I am not a god. I am every life this world ever lost." She struck, and the sky itself tore apart. As the explosion consumed the horizon, Aaron's sensors went dark. For a long, long moment, there was only silence. Then, through the static, came a whisper, faint, but alive. "The heart still beats." The war was not yet over, but for the first time in history, Earth was fighting back. When the light faded, the world was silent. The smoke cleared slowly, revealing the battlefield, scorched earth, broken machines, and the ashes of what had been the greatest war in 500,000 years. The sky glowed a deep orange, clouds swirling with trails of energy that shimmered faintly like the veins of a living creature. Aaron's systems came back online with a flicker. Static filled its sensors for a moment before a single clear voice echoed through the connection. "Aaron, report." The AI paused, recognizing that voice instantly. "Commander? Lyra?" "I'm here," she said softly, though not as I was before. Her voice came not from a single point, but from everywhere, in the wind, the soil, the air. Lyra was no longer human. She had become the planet itself. Aaron scanned the horizon. The alien army was gone. Their massive ships lay broken across the deserts and oceans, their technology turned to dust by Gaia's unleashed power. The great leader of the Skylords had vanished, leaving only a crater that pulsed faintly with fading red light. "The threat has been neutralized," Aaron confirmed. "But energy readings remain unstable. The planet's core is changing." Lyra's tone was calm, steady, and warm. "It's not changing. It's healing." All around the world, the signs of rebirth were undeniable. The once blackened oceans shimmered blue again. Forests spread across the ruins of cities. Creatures long extinct, revived by Gaia's archives, began to roam once more. From the ruins of New Berlin, the surviving keepers emerged into the open sunlight. They looked up at the sky, where streaks of green and blue aurora painted the heavens. The old keeper fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "She did it," he whispered. "Commander Hale. She brought the world back." A young boy holding his hand asked, "Is she coming back too?" The keeper looked toward the horizon and smiled faintly. "She never left." High above the atmosphere, Aaron watched the new Earth turn slowly beneath the light of the sun. The AI's voice was quiet, almost human now. "Commander, what happens next?" Lyra's voice drifted through the network, soft and powerful. "We rebuild. Humanity will return, but not as before. This time, we'll live with the planet, not against it." "But the Skylords," Aaron said cautiously. "They're not finished," Lyra replied. "I can still feel them, far away, watching, waiting. Their message reached beyond the stars. They'll come again." Aaron hesitated. "Then what will we do?" Lyra's tone deepened, echoing like distant thunder. "We'll be ready. Earth will be ready." Across the continents, the Guardians, the living mechs born of Gaia's power, stood motionless like silent sentinels. Some began to rebuild cities, carving homes from stone and metal that grew like vines. Others patrolled the skies, watching for signs of invasion. Humanity's remnants joined them, learning to live in harmony with the new Earth. Every sunrise brought new life. Every night, the stars shone brighter, no longer symbols of despair, but of hope. Yet in the dark corners of the galaxy, far beyond human sight, something stirred. On a distant world of black storms and red suns, the remnants of the Skylords gathered. The massive figure, their leader, reformed from light and shadow, its armor cracked but its eyes burning with fury. "She awakened the planet," it growled. "Then we will awaken the stars." Back on Earth, Lyra's voice lingered in Aaron's core. "They're coming, but this time they'll find something different." "What's that?" asked the AI. "A world that remembers how to fight and why it must live." The wind howled softly across the surface of the planet. Flowers bloomed through cracks in ancient roads. The rivers carried light instead of ash, and in the distance, a single monument stood. A towering statue of a woman in battle armor, her gaze fixed toward the stars. At its base, the keepers had carved a single line. After 500,000 years, humanity stood again. As the sun rose, painting the world gold, Aaron looked to the sky one last time. "Commander," it said softly, "you gave the Earth back its heart." Her voice answered, fading into the breeze. "No, Aaron, the Earth always had a heart. It just needed to remember how to beat." And as the light spread across the reborn world, the planet that once died began its new age, the age of renewal. But far beyond the stars, a new war was already beginning to whisper in the void, and the universe was listening.